Welcome to The Next Man Up, where we explore the misconceptions and paradox around modern masculinity. Join me on my quest to seek the truth through unfiltered conversations with the men behind the masks, so women can better understand men and men can better understand themselves.
I really believed that I didn't care.
Yeah.
And I was setting out to prove that I didn't have to care. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have to hurt. I didn't have to feel. I was fine. And, you know, all of you with your ideals and ideas about what it means to have a family and family values and, you know, the family unit with the mother and the dad and the kids and the white picket fence. Fuck you. I didn't have that and I'm fine. So I was overcompensating with trying to, you know, disprove the ideal model. Hi.
Hi, remember me?
Yes.
Adrian.
Yes.
In your
old pal.
Old pals, long time. As you like to say, 20 years. And I'm like, I was not.
Has it been 20?
No, you have said that. And I'm like, I wasn't 17. I was like 21. So what's the math on that? Like 15?
Minus 4?
50, like
16?
3 years?
Yeah, it's just still a long freaking time.
A long time through many iterations.
Yeah. And you're finally growing up.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna start with you, but we're gonna get to that. In your own words, tell me who you are.
Who am I? Yeah. Well, you know, there's a lot of identity politics going around, immutable characteristics. I am this, I am that. You know, I like to think that I am a continuum of effort to be a better father. To step a little bit more into my capacity to steward the earth and to be a leader of high moral value and to love more fully my wife and people around me. And yeah, that's who I am. That's who I am.
I knew I was going to get some esoteric answer. I was like, I'm not going to get actor. I'm not going to get artist. I'm not going to.
Oh yeah, yes. I am also a thespian.
Yeah.
And I am an aspiring farmer.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and I like to play music, although I'm not formally trained. I'm a noisemaker.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a dream last night, and it woke me up at 4 a.m.
Yeah. Because
I was beatboxing like the most amazing jazz improv. Well,
do you have it down?
It was like and I was like doing all these like sharp notes and, you know, what do they call it? The sad notes. And it was just epic. And I was in it and I was riding it. And then at a certain point, it just got too much. It was like, this is too good. And I woke myself up. Oh. It was very funny.
Was it whatchamacallit? Why am I blanking? The dream where you know you're having a dream.
Lucid? Totally.
Thank you. Was it
totally
a lucid dream? Are you a good lucid dreamer?
Yeah, in fact, I should start a jazz beatboxing group called Lucid Dreams.
In the dreams. And we only start there.
That's right. We only visit you in your dreams. Yeah.
Love it.
Come to our show in your dreams.
Yeah. I'll see you there. So I did something the other night that I should have done years ago. I watched your documentary you made about your dad.
I think you told me you watched it too.
No, I didn't. I hadn't. Did I lie to you back then? That sounds pretty on brand. This is how you know I'm lying. I'll go.
Of course you've seen
Yeah. That's how you know. I say like multiple yes. Yeah. But I was like, holy shit. First of all, I'm an asshole because I've known you for 20 years and never watched it. And there's so much through our friendship and everything that makes sense now. And I kind of wanted to do this like retrospective starting from that and to where you are now, because I connected so many dots and just seeing all of that whole arc.
Yeah.
So to give people a bit of background here, you were raised by your mother and you weren't sure quite of your father until you were 21, 22.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. This is all going back to, these identity questions.
Yeah.
When I was younger, because I didn't grow up with my biological father, or we were essentially estranged, when people would ask me, where's your dad? I'd say, I didn't grow up with him. And people would give me this sort of sad puppy dog. I like, oh, poor thing. And I was so offended by that, like as if somehow I was lesser, or they were like projecting some lack onto me. And I was like, I would, and there's part of me that was like a, you know, rebellious kid who's, I don't need it, you know, I'm fine. You know, it was sort of overcompensating my, you know, my not needing that. But it got to the point where when I was figuring out what I was going to do with my life, and I was becoming interested in documentary films, I watched a movie called, by Ross McElway. It was called Sherman's March. And it really inspired me. And I decided I was going to make a film. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to make a film about. And I thought it would be funny. This is where the initial impulse came. This was like right around, this is in the 90s.
Yeah, 99, I believe.
Well, yeah, but my inspiration were like mid to late 90s. I guess reality TV was a new thing, The Real World on MTV and whatnot. And so I thought it would be funny if I showed up at my father's doorstep with a hidden camera and I said, "Hey, Dad, don't you owe me some back allowance?" You know, that was sort of the funny impulse, especially because I was broke and I was like, how am I going to make some money? Maybe I'll go
punk my dad
to get money. And so we had a Hi8 camera because me and my friends used to make movies for fun just on weekends and whatnot. So it was video. I had an old sort of microphone that I was using for recording music, like an SM58, just for singing. Got a broomstick, plugged in the XLR cable, wrapped it around the broomstick, plugged it into the camera, got my buddy John, who, by the way, was in my dream about beatboxing.
Wow, let's call him.
And we literally set out on the road to find my dad, with that initial funny prank scene in my mind at some point. But it turned into a much more heartfelt, deep exploration of fatherhood and getting to know my father eventually. Spoiler alert, we find him.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What I found so interesting, because strangely, I've never met your mom, and I remember I mentioned that to Jordan, your wife, last time. She was like, "How? What?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I had no idea. It so much makes sense. Like her whole matriarchal lineage, and that she said she wanted to pass that along to you. And how did that affect your relationship with women? Let's start there before we go to men. Like being raised by a very strong woman, a very like free love woman, very liberated.
Hey. Oh, so listen, you know, it's funny how much our psychologies are just dripping with, you know, presence. They're everywhere if we just hold up a camera. The one thing I love about documentary film is you point the camera out into the world and you ask the universe a question, you get footage back and it answers. And part of the answer is what you interpret, but also part of it is apparent. You're just like, wow, like I've captured so much on camera that I didn't even know I was looking for. Right. That I didn't even that I had to discover. But yeah, I mean, getting to know my mom in that way, because the format for me was I'm going to find my estranged father, who's this absence, this unknown, this black hole, right? And if you know like the science of a black hole, like nothing escapes, not even light, so you can't see it. But scientists study black holes through the event horizon, which is that point at which the black hole loses its power and you can finally see something. So the whole like structure of the film was I'm going to explore this black hole through what we know, the event horizon. So I'm going to talk to my mom, I'm going to talk to my father figures, I'm going to talk to people on the street about father. I'm going to then go into the black hole, and as I go in, I'm going to finally get to the middle and see my dad, right? And so, you know, of course I had to interview my mom, who raised me as a single mother. and get to know her. And, you know, she said, she's, you know, I was father and mother to you. And she, in her mind, that was her role. And so, you know, I always was very proud of my mother for that, because I respected her, and I revered her. I mean, we were so close. It was single mom, only child. And she's a survivor, and she was a badass, and she was loving and tender and all the good things. But then in retrospect, I'm like, you know, all the fatherly things that I thought that she was supposedly fulfilling, I think she was sort of falling flat or falling short on.
Like what?
The discipline. You know, she would want to be the disciplinarian and put down boundaries and rules and structure, but energetically she just wasn't cut out for it. So she would go from, I'm putting a boundary, to like getting agitated and upset, and then she would get riled up and emotional, and I would rebel, or I would resist, or I would, you know, say no, or whatever youngsters would do. And so I never felt like I never felt like I was really being contained. Thank you. I always knew I could kind of get away with it, or I could rile her up till she was upset, and then whatever it was that we were battling would go away eventually. So I was getting away with a lot, if I may. She was certainly, I think, overworking, and she was a provider, and she had to sort of step into masculine roles in order to survive, and she did a great job in that. She's super smart, but I in retrospect, I look back and my heart breaks a little that she didn't have a man to take care of her, to hold her, to give her relief, to support her, to honor her, to love her in the ways that I think, you know, and I love you, Mom, sorry, but the ways that I think she was craving deep down inside, she just didn't know how to ask for, or moreover, she didn't believe she was worthy of receiving, because of the way men showed up for her in her life.
I feel like that's so relatable, especially now in the societal environment that we're in, you know, seeing women take on the role of the provider and the masculine and trying to be all these things, and kind of guise it under this staunch liberation, where I think it's really a core fear. I mean, I did that for a long time. I'm still working on coming out the other side of it, and trusting that I can soften into my feminine. And it was interesting watching the documentary how kind of blasé and laissez-faire you'd come across as. And I'm like, Adrian's kind of always been like that. And then I'm like, was that a way of self-preservation with your dad? Because then near the end, you know, you start to open more and you bond more. But at the beginning, you're very much like, oh, you know, like, no, I'm just making it 'cause whatever.
Yeah, it was interesting because I really believed that I didn't care.
Yeah.
And I was setting out to prove that I didn't have to care. And I didn't have to hurt. I didn't have to feel. I was fine. And, you know, all of you with your ideals and ideas about what it means to have a family and family values, and, you know, the family unit with the mother and the dad and the kids and the white picket fence. Fuck you. I didn't have that, and I'm fine. So I was overcompensating with trying to, you know, disprove the ideal model. And so yeah, like I you know, the truth is, there were people on the crew I mean, this was my first film. I was 19 years old. Again, high 8 camera. I mean, it's a scrappy looking film. It looks like video. It's not a pretty film. It's raw and ugly cinematically, but the content is solid. I mean, I'm very proud of the storytelling, but it was scrappy. I mean, we spent, I don't know, it was probably, it took me 8 years to make. I spent maybe $50,000 or $60,000 over time. I like hobble together a little money, go edit, but I shot it in 2 weeks and we edited it over,
wow,
an eon.
Wow.
And so it's a low budget, but I had friends who I had lured into helping, and one of them was Ari Gold, actually.
No way.
Boom, boom, boom. Ari Gold, who is a filmmaker as well, and I asked him to come on as a producer, and he came to support, and we ended up being in a band together later, and then they named the character on Entourage Ari Gold, and it was a big drama because he thought that I sold him out.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. Yeah. He's like, dude, you fucking.
Oh my God.
He's like, do you realize I'm trying to be in the film business? And every time I call someone, I'm like, I'm Ari Gold. People hang up on me and they think I'm making a joke.
Oh
I'm like,
my God.
Yeah. Sorry, Ari. I had it was not me. I promise. Anyway, long story short, on the film Shot in the Dark, he was mad at me. Like he thought I was bullshit. He was like, you're acting like you don't care, and I know you do, and this is bullshit. So he was trying to goat me into having a feeling. Mm-hmm. But I was so repressed. I had so much masked, and I was on floating above in this nonchalant kind of way, and everything was a joke and kind of funny. Even naming the film Shot in the Dark, I thought was so cute and cool and interesting. And then I was abstracting things, so I was intellectualizing it, but I was not really feeling. And I was also rebelling against the institutions, and I went to see a psychiatrist, and kind of making fun of that whole thing. And the psychiatrist was like, seems like you have a lot of emotion you're not touching. I'm like, whatever, dude, like, ha ha. In retrospect, I should probably make a sequel to that film, because what I would have to say about fatherhood, what I would say about myself and my relationship to my needs that were not being met, to my own sense of masculinity, would be obviously have 30 years of hindsight and maturity. Yeah. But at the time, I really believed that I didn't need it, and I didn't want it, and I didn't care. And that was also, that there's also truth in that as well. Yeah,
you don't feel it until you do, I feel, right? Like there's a rupture, and I think I know when that was for you, but we're going to kind of go along this timeline to see then what happened next in your life when I guess you landed the show. And if you're already getting away with things and like, not really feeling it, and you're being told yes by everyone, like, what's that like?
So, I just want to say lastly, before I answer that question, I'm really proud of the ending. I find the ending to be, I'm a pretty philosophically minded dude, can get pretty abstract. But growing up in this postmodern mentality, everything was an intellectual, Rubik's Cube that I got to create and format and have fun with. Yeah. And so at the very end, and I hope you watch it, but the spoiler really is that my dad and I engage in a play, a performance in which we play out, we role play the two ideals, or the ideal version of a meeting with your dad, and then like the bad version. And for me, that was showing the relative nature of everything. And in the beginning, I start with a quote, Aeschylus, I think it was, in the universe, there are atoms in empty space. All else is opinion. So it was all just relative. How can you say what's real, what's not real? What do you care? If you care or don't care, it doesn't matter. You get to choose, and you get to perform your life. And that played true for where I was as an actor. For me, it was, we're all just play acting our lives, so I could be anything and play anything, and I can love you or not love you, or lights, camera, action. It's all storytelling. Even our personal relationships, even my relationship with my dad is just a show, and I choose to show or not show my emotions. It doesn't matter. It's not real. So there was nothing grounding me in truth, in a higher truth that was eternal and that was stable. And that's because the truth that I've come to know now can be so painful and upsetting that I decided I did not want a part of that truth.
Right. Yeah, the over analysis. It's very easy to get lost in that and use it as to anesthetize anything else, really.
You hover above. I mean, it's intellectual, it's abstract, so it's by nature, it's interpretive, it's abstracted. It's not real. You're interpreting it from like a perspective. I always say that the truth is, you can't, if you close your eyes and you feel your heart, like there's nothing more true than what you're feeling. It's undeniable.
Yeah.
It's when you start interpreting it, then it's like, now it's not truth anymore. Now it's one step removed.
Yeah.
But I was perfectly satisfied with my smug knowingness, and read a couple books and I thought I was all fucking smart and shit, Yeah. Actually, I didn't even read the books. I just, skimmed
just start
them.
talking about them. Yeah. Just drop some, Nietzsche or whatever. So yeah, now we get the show. What happens then? Do we just go further into what you were just talking about, into like, well, it's all working out, I'm kind of being rewarded for being the way I am and not feeling things? Or what did that look like? Yeah,
totally. I would say in many ways my whole life is plotting towards where I am now. The thing with my dad where I didn't really have that masculine figure, and so I'm this eternal youth, this Peter Pan, this adolescent man. And then I get this show on Entourage, as like the quintessential adolescent, prince character, and in many ways. So it's funny, I read this book when I made Shot in the Dark. It was perfect. It was like, yes. I was actually going to call the Pure Eternus, I think that's how it's called, the eternal youth, I think is what it translates to. But it was a Jungian interpretation of masculinity, a Jungian interpretation of the author of The Little Prince.
Yeah, because you never read Jung right away, as you know. Like, it's like you got to start with the analysis of, well, I don't know if you know that, but I know that.
I didn't know that. No. So they interpreted through the Jungian perspective the author's psychology.
That's fucking cool.
Who wrote The Little Prince?
What was that like? Tell me about it.
Well, it was holding up a mirror.
Yeah.
And there was a moment when I was thinking I'd call. Where was I? I don't remember why. I was gonna call Shot in the Dark. No. At some point, I was going to call something The Little Prince or Pure Eternus. Anyway, it rang true. Not hovering over reality, living in the clouds, living in the stars, thinking you're living forever, never touching the ground. These kinds of things, and those are themes that are playing out through the Peter Pan narrative and Little Prince and all this. So I was definitely living that, and then now embodied in the quintessential figure of Vincent Chase, who was the royalty of the American dream, of consumerism, of indulgence, of sex, drugs, and hedonism. And I was just rolling through. It was like, whatever, cool, like natural. I can do that, And as the reward of that success, the money, the fame, then washed over me, it more and more just sort of solidifies my worldview. And still not as of yet having the adult masculine figure to fucking whip me into shape.
Yeah, it's like you want it to be checked, right? I've known you for a long time, and I felt that with you. It's like, you and I have always had a pretty... you've seen me through many iterations of life too, and you definitely have a thing for strong, opinionated women.
Not anymore.
Yeah, certainly not your wife.
Just
My God.
One,
okay,
just
yeah,
one
exactly.
strong, opinionated
That's why
woman.
I see you like twice a year instead. But it's like you wanted pushback. I felt that. It's like you wouldn't, in your personal life, you wouldn't surround yourself by, yes, people are ingratiating people, because I think after a while it started to wear really thin, where it was just pissing you off, frankly. Like, I remember being out with you and you know, fans would come up and you were still pleasant, but like, you love the person that had no idea who the fuck you were, if we could find one of those. And it's like, that was what you were searching for at a certain point. I don't know if you could even name it, but were you aware that you wanted to be checked? You wanted the pushback?
Well, I mean, you start to, I mean, we're creatures of habit, right? We're pattern finding figures, and you get into these routines. I was definitely conditioned by my mother, obviously my upbringing in New York. And I was attracted to people who were of a certain type, and, you know, definitely more masculine embodied women who were self-made, or who were tough, or who were girl bosses or whatever. And, you know, I just so misguided, you know, like my heart breaks for the girls that I would make like split the bill or something, you know.
You never did that with me, but yeah.
Well, and it made so much sense to me. I'm like, well, you're a strong woman, right? You want to be independent, so be independent, you know. And also, like, I didn't want to coddle you know, or be insulting to your independence.
Did you believe that, though?
I really believed it.
Because your mom was like that, right?
These were feminist ideas. And so I've tried to make amends for all the terrible things I've done in my life, but one terrible thing, you know, just not recognizing and stepping into my role as a protector. And frankly, I probably didn't have the capacity to be a protector at the time. So partly selfishly, not wanting to put myself in harm's way. But, you know, I would let people, like women, get on trains at like 3 a.m. See ya, you know, have fun going back to Bed-Stuy or whatever, and not think the wiser of it. I'm like, you're cool, right? You're an independent person. Yeah. Or maybe I didn't want to pay for the cab or something. I don't know. I was not taught those values. I was taught the opposite.
Yeah.
A girl doesn't need a man. You know, don't try and own. You're not going to own me because you're paying for, like, these kinds of things. Yeah. And, you know, we're just as good as you. We can do what you do. All those things. And on top of that, being conditioned into a certain amount of emasculation myself, where I didn't have, like, again, I don't think I could have protected myself on that train, you know, let alone, you know, stand up for you. So I didn't have the fighting spirit. I didn't have the self-sacrifice in me. I didn't have the sense of that, like the masculinity that would put myself in harm's way and be dangerous enough to do the hard thing, so that you know, to protect others. Yeah, it's, you know, like I was more feminine in many ways.
I remember.
It's like, protect me, you know, save me. I'm the star. You wouldn't want to lose your hero, would you?
Yeah, it's like, because you didn't have an initiation of any kind then, right? Which you came to much later, which I want to circle back to, because you kind of were the first person to introduce me to men's work, like, which we'll get to. So would you say at that time also your capacity for love just wasn't as stretched either? Like, you just didn't feel you'd be in relationships, sort of. I know you were kind of open-ish, right? That's how you viewed the way they should have been back then. And so was your capacity for deep love just not there because you hadn't felt it yet?
Yeah, I mean, I in retrospect, certainly not. It was quite superficial. Although I was in this head trip that we're like all bathing in a stream of love that's just flowing through all of us, because deep down inside we are humans who are like fundamentally good. And, you know, I love you and I love you and I love everybody. And, you know, if you just be love, and then you don't have to actually commit to anyone, because we're in this, you know, flowy, you know, very amorphous and not there was no commitment. There was nothing tangible. There was nothing to root into. There was nothing. Did not provide any expectations. No stability. No structure. And it served my lifestyle. And by the way, and this is how sick Hollywood is, my manager would be like, okay, I know you're dating, this girl, but when you do this interview, you're still single. Don't mention you have a girlfriend, because the fans want to imagine that you're still available. I'm like, all right, it's business, baby, and so do you have a girlfriend? Nah, I'm just still looking for the one.
Yeah, and then it's like, between reality and that, like, which is which, it kind of morphs into the same, right?
Well, and poor girlfriend, she's just like, you don't want to claim me, you don't want to acknowledge me. What am I? Just a side piece, a piece of me, and but to me, you're conditioned, and those adult males who were managing me were in many ways the guys that I was looking up to guide me. Yeah. And they weren't going to take me out back and whip me into shape and initiate me. They were going to use me to the ends of making money. Yeah. And so what was your relationship with men like then? You had some men in your life growing up that your mother was close with, and you have I remember you've always had a kid?
Yeah, because and then as it evolved, because you've always had a ton of female friends. Like that's been a pretty constant thing. I mean, a little different now as a family man and father to 2 boys. But what about trusting men in the masculine? What was that, and having anyone you looked up to?
Well, I had the ability to surround myself with other emasculated men. Other men who were intellectuals or musicians, so they would feel music or feel art only as it was like an expression of the abstract. But it wasn't like, I feel love because I'm protecting my family, or I feel love because I'm a breadwinner, or it's more traditional, I would say, maybe innate expressions of masculinity. Is almost feminine. Like I would say, even the creative is a feminine expression.
Yep.
The women are the ones that are capable of creating life itself. They are that energy is a creative force. So I always say that in many ways, I was emasculated on some level, and then the feminine aspects of me were cultivated or nurtured to the point where I was able to use that femininity in my art as a actor, as a filmmaker, and I did well in that. I know you'll like this, right? So, and we're not going to talk about it, but just to dip in a little bit, when I was going through my personal transformation, I did a breath work session, and I did this. It was at a shamanic breath work, whatever, right? Some shaman came in, and we did a 45-minute, hour-long breath work session, and I ended up going into a psychedelic state where I was passing through the lineage of my female ancestors, right? So I saw my mother, and then I felt her pain, and like her looking for the masculine, or her seeing her father be abusive, or the guy that was fresh with her, or worse than my grandmother. And I was seeing all of her pain and what she was enduring, and seeing her husband having a whole nother family that lived around, and I started crying, and bawling. And then I saw my great grandmother, and this was clear as day, and I'm in this holotropic psychedelic state, and I'm passing through to my great ancestors, to my Native American ancestors, the women during the imperialists, and watching their husbands get murdered and trying to hide, and then kept going back and back all the way to the earth. Whoa. The feminine energy of the earth, and then how much pain the earth is in, the fires, and the animals, and the nature, and the humans' destruction upon her. And I was bawling and crying. I came out of it, I was like, what the hell was that? It was crazy. And I was talking to the shaman. I was talking about something about, how, I was touched with, I was feeling my female lineage and the women in my life, and how I was really feeling that, and as a man, and then the shaman was like, you don't really feel like a with all due respect, I'm not feeling masculinity coming from you. You're feeling very feminine to me. And I was like, really? Whoa. And it just clicked for me that I was, in fact, totally disconnected from my masculine lineage. I couldn't touch it. It wasn't anywhere there. I could not access it.
Yeah, you literally physically couldn't either.
And physically couldn't.
Yeah.
And then it occurred to me that there was this lame, sort of repressed masculine self that was still an adolescent boy in many ways, that was exploiting and utilizing my strong feminine in the creative world in order to get fame and power, so that little boy would feel like the man.
Wow.
Would feel powerful, feel strong, but not actually have to do anything for it. And in that moment, I said to myself, I will no longer exploit my feminine for this little boy who can't stand up and protect my feminine. And I'd been using myself.
Yeah.
I've been prostituting myself out.
Yeah.
To get these, worldly, jewels and accolades.
Yeah.
For ego, and I sort of drew a line in the sand where I wasn't going to do that anymore, and that's when I quit acting for a period.
That's crazy, because I feel like I went through something similar. I don't know what my big aha moment was, but I was very much in my masculine, and using that, I always say, like, broing out in blowjobs was like, oh, you can't hurt me. I'm not, if I'm just like your bro and I just hook up with you, then the men can't hurt me. I have no expectations. And to realize they didn't have to do and perform, and I could just be. I'm still figuring that out, but it was the longest. It's been a long journey. Like, I literally did prostitute myself out, right? Mm-hmm. Going back to when that was.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I did too, literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Hollywood, it's very much an industry of prostitution. On probably get canceled now, or please hire me. I don't know, but we are also performing and allowing the industry to do things to us that are against our morals, against our values, that are very much creating stories that are destructive out in the world so we can get paid.
Yeah, and it's a way to control without us having to do the work.
Yep.
On the start, oh, I can't get hurt if I'm making this decision.
Yep.
So when did that happen? Was that pre-Jordan, after, post-Jordan?
So you mean that revelation?
Yeah.
So post-Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah. So my current wife and I were dating.
Current wife, forever wife.
Yeah, right. Well, she at one time she wasn't my wife. Yeah. We were dating, and
let's go back to that. How did you meet Jordan? What I remember when you first told me. Give me your words of when that happened.
So I was throwing a party in the Hamptons, and I had Surf Lodge, if you know it. Good time. It is. But I was on top of my game. I was throwing parties there regularly. I was curating the artists, and they were all coming from my artist run label. So they were bands that I was working with or I was playing, and a band that I was really in love with that I was working with called The Skins were on stage playing, and I'm sort of in the back by the sound booth, and I'm just looking around, and it's like the party's popping, and above the sea of people is this girl standing on a table dancing.
Standing on the table. I'm sorry. What?
Standing on the table, dancing. And she looks back and her smile was just electric. And I said, who's that? Like, that's... So I shuffled through the crowd and I looked up and said, hey, what's up? And so that's how I met her. And then from that moment on, we were like attached at the hip the whole night. Mm-hmm. She was catching a very, very late bus. Mm-hmm. Tried really hard to convince her to not get on that bus. But as you know, it's true to Jordan, she got on the bus and mm-hmm. I was like, all right, I guess that's it. Yeah. But we stayed in touch and we ended up spending a lot more time together than I was expecting.
And so where did your relationship go from there? Because this was like a pivotal moment. I remember you telling me about it. You're like, I met someone, and you had emotion when you were sharing about her. And I was like, this sounds like a real...
Well, it's funny too, because she says that night I told her I wanted to have kids, and I asked her if she, would ever want to have kids or something. Yeah. Implying that, maybe we,
make one that night.
I don't know. I was getting to that age where mm-hmm. I was, wanting to have a family. I didn't know how to go about it. I probably going about it the wrong way, but I knew that I wanted something like, resembling a family, at least in my like demented delusion at the time. Mm-hmm. And she thought, I was like, oh, don't be ridiculous. They're just giving me lines or something. And it turns out I really had more intuition than she thought. Yeah. Because now here we are, 10 years later, 11 years later, married with kids and the whole thing. Yeah. But before that, we dated for 4 years. She realized that I was a man-child and she was not going to reach me, and she wasn't going to daddy me. Yeah. She was a tough cookie, but I needed to grow up. And she made it made it known under uncertain terms that I was done, not to contact her.
What was the switch that happened for her? Because like there was a moment you guys were great, and then you said she realized what exactly? Like what was that?
I was just unreliable. I was deceitful. I was selfish. Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell the truth when it really, I couldn't tell the truth just because if it didn't serve me. Mm-hmm. I believed that, I was in my self-righteousness, so I believed that I could tell lies because she didn't understand, or mm-hmm. something, like she doesn't know what she's talking about, like
I'm preserving you.
Right, I'm not going to burden you with the truth because you can't handle the truth. That kind of stupid, mentality. Mm-hmm. And I really believed it. I was really on my high horse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I hurt her deeply. And when she ended it, that was not a tactic. She ended it. I remember I had lunch with her and it was like, and then you went through it. Oh. You went through it. So yeah. Here I'm thinking, Adrian's, that was fine. He's fine. She ends it. She means it. She's done. She goes to Portugal, right? Pretty soon after. Yeah. She literally fucking takes off. I always say it's a big, huge, cosmic wallop mm-hmm. upside the head. It's just like a backhand, universal bitch slap. And she just went, boom! And struck me so hard psychically, mm-hmm. just enough to barely wake me from my slumber, which I'd been in for 30, 40 years. Who knows, mm-hmm. my whole life. Mm-hmm. But she was so powerful, karmically, psychically, as a force, as a being, as someone who I believe I'd shared many lifetimes. And she's like, are you fucking serious? We come to this planet, we're reincarnating to do life together, and you're gonna pull this shit? Blah. And it was so powerful that I literally was awakened for just a moment before I went back into my slumber. Huh. But it was sort of the glitch in the matrix. I was like, oh wait, like I'm asleep. I don't know what that means. I'm in the lucid dream now, and now I have to figure out how to wake up. Right. And then it took me 2 years of the holotropic psychedelic breath work. What did you start with, and what were those revelations that you had
in that process?
I mean, there's so many. So there's 2 full years of committed work to get out of the patterning, separate myself from the lifestyle and the indulgences that were keeping me numb and dumb and narked out, and start to get to know myself, start to feel again. I had some profound spiritual awakening moments in which it wasn't fun, in which I was touching pain that I'd had from childhood, that was many of the reasons why I was staying in the head or staying in the party, because I didn't know, my little boy didn't know how to feel that. And because I wasn't allowing myself to feel, I was leaving so much on the table, so much information, so much wisdom, so much intuition. I wasn't navigating. I was making decisions, but it was abstracted. It wasn't like actual moving through the world on the ground. And so I had to clean that up and start to get to know myself a lot more, and start to restructure myself into a divine expression of man and grow the fuck up. And then when my intuition came online, and the pain that I'd been avoiding, I started becoming more familiar with it, and it calmed down a bit. Then I was starting to make intuitional decisions, where I would come up against a decision and be like, okay, let me see if this works. Let me turn off my head, let me close my eyes, and let me feel into this choice. And I'd be like, that's a bad choice. I shouldn't do that. Definitely shouldn't do that. But my brain's being like, but she's, and it would make you so much, or, whatever the rational reasons to do the thing, or my cock is like, you gotta, whatever it was. And then I would listen into my intuition, my heart, and I was like, it's the wrong choice. And I'd make some mistakes. I'd be like, yeah, whatever, that's just doesn't matter. And I'd do it, and then it would end up instant karma. I'm like, oh wow, okay, maybe there's something here. And it wasn't until I was able to actually start to feel and be in my heart that I was making the decisions that made my life better.
And this is the time that you discovered men's work and men's groups.
How
did
men's
that
work
happen?
Well, I had to start stepping away from the friendships that were not serving me. A lot of these man children, or just weak. I had one friend for many years, and he was like, I loved hanging out with him, and we would get together and we'd gossip. Straight the fuck up.
Couple of chicks in your feminine, just
Totally, we would drink rosé and gossip.
girl.
And I loved it. Like, I was having the best time, but it was so unhealthy. And and when I realized, this isn't a relationship that's serving me, it's not who I want to be. I want more. And you start to reorient yourself. Well, first you decide what your values are, and you can choose, right? We don't realize we walk around according to a moral values code that maybe was implanted, or we didn't even choose. So you go back and you do the inventory, and you start to decide what are your values consciously. Like, this is what I believe in, this is what and then you reorient yourself towards that. And a lot of it's spiritual, where I'm creating, I'm orienting towards God, towards that higher state of, love and kindness and service and family, and continuously, like you're on the open ocean, continuously reorienting towards that goal. And there's all the currents and the influences that want to pull you one way or the other, the storms that get you off track, and then you get back on. So I stepped away from those friend groups, isolated myself until I was ready to reemerge. And then I was consciously choosing new friends, the friends that I believed are living the values that I aspire to, that would hold me accountable, that would help inspire me, and would make embodying those values any harder, but what might actually make it easier. And started reaching out to people, and that's when I reached out to Preston Smiles. I was like, that's the kind of dude that I want to hang out with. Like that now as this new expression of myself. That's who I want to aspire to be and be friends with.
Yeah.
Reached out to him. We had coffee at Cafe Gratitude in Venice. Or was it like a matcha latte? I don't know. But we connected, and we saw each other again at Burning Man one year, and then COVID happened. And during COVID, he invited me to be in a men's group that was all online because we were meeting on Zoom or whatever. And that was how long ago was that?
6 years ago,
7 years
almost.
Yeah, and we've been in that group ever since.
Right.
And in many ways, I owe a lot to him in terms of bringing that cohesion and that solid, reliable group of men.
Jordan says that's like imperative as to why you guys got back together, is that men's group.
That's certainly part of it.
Yeah.
But I have to say, all of the men in that group are operating at a high level. So I knew that I had to bring my A game. I had to bring a certain amount to it. So it wasn't just the work that I was doing in the men's group or waiting for them to show me, but I was also doing the work on myself separately so that I could bring to them my best self.
Yeah, that's kind of like how I view psychedelics. You shouldn't ever just launch into drugs, even if they're good, right? Like you should have some foundational work. You shouldn't bypass the foundational work before you go straight into ayahuasca or beeline for that high level experience. So like you said, you were priming yourself. You were already primed, and you continued to double down on the work, right? So you could show up a certain way.
Yeah, you have to definitely train yourself, and I don't know. Change will happen, whether or not you choose it, or if you're just passively not choosing. And I always find that psychedelics, like I'm very experienced in them, and for so long it was either an intellectual curiosity when I was younger. Doors of Perception, man, the Beatles, like, read Timothy Leary or whatever, the pursuits of the abstract, and the Akashic Records is like, another plane of existence, these kinds of things. And then or it would be recreational. It wasn't until I started using psychedelics as a tool of transformation and using it intentionally and setting intention so that when I was in that heightened state, I could actually start to make the most of it. Utilize that moment. You could use it to write a hit song or write a cool tune, or you can use it to be a better person.
Yeah.
You can use it to, take a look inside at the things that you're missing.
Yeah. I've done, I did some journey work. Like the first time I did MDMA and LSD non-recreationally was, I guess, 4 years ago in Oaxaca. And I did this whole preparation for it. And it was like this 3-day event, and, was sober and eating the whole diet and all that. It's similar to my ayahuasca journey leading up to it. And it was just a completely heart-opening experience, like completely different. And I was like, this is the same drug? What? Yeah. Here I am still crying, softening, melting. Other times if I did it at a party, which does not work for me because I'm in a corner like this. Like I want to be rolled up in a carpet or something, Okay, so you're in all of this work. It's 2 years now. Is that when you reach out to Jordan? Had you been in communication with her?
No, she every other time I've broken up with someone, you know, you're like, oh, we'll be friends, you know, and then you can hang out, and then, you know, maybe you relapse into a little bit of, you know, a thing again, and it doesn't work, and then you start. It's sloppy.
Yeah.
And it's messy, and it's undefined, and it's not clear. It's leaky, as they say. With Jordan, it wasn't. She homegirl, like, you know, obviously we had some things that we had to get back from each other after the breakup, and of course, in my mind, that's the opportunity. Yeah. Like, hey, what's up?
Your
like,
feminine manipulation,
right? Exactly. Yeah. And no, she's like, okay, there's your stuff, and I'd say, good to see you. You know, like, not even a hug, not even a hug. How about a handshake? No handshake. Yeah. I did not touch her, not even a handshake, not even a pound, for those whole 2 years. Yeah. And I only saw her a couple times. And, you know, she just kept seeing right through me. And not even through me, she saw my higher potential. And that's what she wanted. She was like, I want the real you, you know, I know you're more than this, and I don't want anything less. I don't want this bastardized version of you. You know, and I don't think she was thinking that consciously, but I think women have a knack at pulling out the best in men, or at least, you know, if we're paying attention, that's what they're asking for. That's what they're screaming for. Like, come on, be better. You know, and it's up to us to heed that call and meet that challenge.
And you did. So what happened?
Well, it took me 2 years to even approach it, because I had a lot of deconstructing, ego death, and then reimagining, and then getting, you know, training. You know, it's like you're born again. And you're atrophied, and you're like baby Bambi. You know, you can barely stand, barely walk as this new version of yourself, and it's messy, and you're awkward, and you don't have. I didn't have the same swagger and confidence because I didn't have all the things to, you know, to lean on. Oh, check out my house. You know, oh, have you seen my DVD collection of the films that I'm in? Or, you know.
Stop. Oh my God, I have, yes.
My documentaries, which you're supposed to have seen. You know, and I was consciously not dropping those little cues. Don't you know who I am? Because you would just rest on those achievements. And even when I thought, I mean, I'll tell you a story. I think you'll like this one. So I was doing the work, and the work was distinctly get on the ground. I went to see a psychic as one of the explorations into self. And she basically said that I was so ungrounded, and that I needed to, and I think this is within the themes of what you explore. She said that you were looking to find groundedness through women, because women are a direct line into the earth. And you're floating off up there, and women would help ground you, and then you would float back off, and you find, you know, always finding a way to be back in the ground. She's like, go right to the source. Cut out the middle woman and get into the earth. And I was like, well, like, you know, fuck the earth. And she's like, okay, if that's what you know. So that's when I decided to, you know, start a community garden here on the east side of Austin. And I started working literally with the earth. And it was night and day. I slept better. You know, it was great for like my meditation practices. It was in and of itself a meditation.
Weren't you like living in the RV for a period?
I was living very low to the ground, no frills, just staying focused on doing the work and a lot of the inner work and such, and all the while continuously being in the soil. And that, you know, we are energetic beings that need to be grounded. And it was game changer, right? Just for the physical act of being in the soil.
Yeah.
I was discharging a lot of that energy. And at the time I was practicing celibacy and semen retention, you know, so there's like no arousal. And I was just meditating. I had all this energy that was just like, it was like seething. I was, you know, I'm a fucking man. Like I got hormones and testosterone, and I wasn't used to just containing all of that. So being in the earth was actually a great way to move it and find a place for it. And I got into rock climbing. It was one thing that Jordan had always wanted to do with me, but I was like too timid or too femme to rock climb. and I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. I wanted to be the kind of guy that would take her rock climbing.
Yeah.
And so I started rock climbing, and I fell in love with it. And it was my one escape, my one outlet that wasn't the work. Wasn't being in a meditative state or reading books or, you know, Iron John or, you know, different, you know, courses or classes or retreats. And I got so into rock climbing, I was rock climbing like 2 or 3 hours a day. And then one day I was going for a hold. I fell off and I split a tendon in my foot. It just snapped. So I can't walk. I'm in a cast. And I'm laying there, and I realized that the universe, God, was saying, no, bro, like I meant it, on the ground. You know, I was, even in the work and the healthy exercise, was finding a way to be off the ground, in the air, in escape. So there I am laying there with my foot. I'm like, damn, now I'm really grounded, really in it. In my thoughts, in my prayers. And then one time I go to the like local coffee shop, and I'm lonely as fuck. I haven't been with anybody. I've just been working, and it's hard, and I'm meeting pain, and it's no fun and not easy, and sad and lonely. And I just wanted some relief. I wanted some company, whatever. But I was, you know, staying true to the work. But little trouble creeps in every once in a while. So I was at the local coffee shop, and there's this you know, woman who like started the coffee shop, and you know, she was attractive, and you know, I sort of noticed her, and I asked my friend, I said, you know, what's up with her? And he goes, oh yeah, she's got a boyfriend. And I was like, oh. And then he just said something. He goes, yeah, but you know, they're all looking for upgrades. He said that, right? and I was like, oh, huh. And I wasn't thinking really at the time, but it just rang true to me. Like, oh, and maybe I'm the upgrade, right? And I'm hobbling back to my camper, living like in the backyard, like in the ground, dirty, with like a broken foot. I hadn't shaved in weeks, and I look in the mirror, and I'm on this little high, thinking, oh, you know, maybe I'm the upgrade, you know. And then I realized, I was like, who the fuck do you think? You think you're the upgrade? You're the upgrade without the house and the accolades and the fame and the fortune and like the cool, you know, character that, you know, you think you are. You're just this lowly guy who's, you know, broken hearts and hurt the one you wanted to marry and have children with, and you don't even know the fuck you are. And it was in that moment I was like, oh, I'm not the upgrade. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I got to get right with myself. I'm still in the work. You know, so there's so many those little reminders where partly I wanted to dip out of it and find the relief, and it just keeps bringing me back to like present, be here. You know, you're still in the work. You're not done yet. You're not fashioned. You're not whole. All that.
Yeah.
And that's such is the work. And by the way, still in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. We all are. If anyone ever says they've made it, they're full of shit, frankly. So you go out to Lisbon, if I recall. And did you start a conversation now? Was that on it?
Story. That's a whole story.
We don't need to go all into it, but let's just see if we can encapsulate that story in that moment that you reached out and she said, yes, come, let's, and your intention was not to get back together, if I recall. It was like, how can I be of service to you?
She would argue that I was definitely trying to get back together with her, but I really wasn't. I mean, honestly, I knew that I was in a state where I was not going to be able to move on into a new relationship successfully, or I'd get into a relationship and then repeat some of the same patterns until I had full closure with Jordan, until I healed that. And I was prepared to devote myself to make sure that I made amends with her. I reached out to her. I said, look, this is where I'm at. This is what I've been doing. This is who I'm attempting to be. I'm still in the work, but I'm doing better. I want to give myself to this process, and I'm asking you to meet me halfway. I will spare no expense. I will take as long as it takes. I'm not with anybody. I'm not sleeping with anybody. I just want to make sure that we're good, we're healed, so that we can move apart without any hooks, without any attachments or any karmic, tension. And she was leery, but she was open to it. And then she said she had an intuitive hit that she was going to answer, and I emailed her and she responded. And again, I was still like Bambi, sloppy, awkward, didn't quite know how to do it right, and I made mistakes, and I went back into some old patterns, and we were working through that. But it was during COVID, and she said, look, this all sounds great in theory, you're saying the right words, but I need to feel it and, see you to know whether or not this is real. You're a good performer. You're good, you look good at play acting. I was like, okay, I'll go see you. Where are you? And she goes, I'm in Lisbon.
Classic Jordan.
And it's COVID. And there's a ban on American travel to Europe or to Lisbon. I'm like, she's like, good luck.
Yeah,
click.
That's amazing. Here's the fucking labyrinth map. Yeah.
And God bless her. And I was like, all right, I see you. Let's go. And I pulled out all the stops, and I made my way. I found my way into a foreign country that I was banned from technically. And I pulled some strings. I wrote some letters to the government.
Oh my God.
I did, probably a few illegal things. And it was all for love though. So
yeah.
And I finally made it there. And I almost didn't. There were so many near misses, so many things that could have derailed the whole thing, despite all my effort. And it was for the first time that I had to do something that was truly hard. Yeah. Everything else came easy to me. Delegate,
figure it out. Yeah.
Right. And just give me the part. Okay, great. You're just gonna pay me a lot of money to do something stupid? Like, okay, I'll do it. This was something that I didn't know if I was actually going to be able to succeed at it, and I had to work really hard at it, and I was doing it all by myself. And I made it there, and one little romantic thing I did, and again, I was not trying to get her back. I'm just was really trying to give a sweet gesture of love. And I knew she'd always wanted flowers, and I was always like, flowers, like, what do you need flowers for? Blah, 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 blah. But I had contacted a florist in Lisbon, and I had him get a bouquet ready. And then I said, while I was on the plane, as we were landing, I texted him. I'm like, okay, deliver the flowers. So he delivered the flowers right as I was landing.
Shut up.
Yeah. And I was like, look at the plane. I wrote on the thing.
God.
We're finally on the same soil, right? And that was quite a 2 weeks. I think I was there for about 2 weeks. And I had my own Airbnb, and we would spend time together, and mind you, like I'd been celibate for 8 months or something. I
remember,
she's beautiful. Yeah, and it was really hard.
Yeah. She knew that too. She knew, she loved it.
She just was playing with me like a cat with a piece of string. I want to tell all the stories. I can't. I was very respectful, and at times I was a little bit intense, and I had to sort of work that out. But ultimately, we began the healing process, and then while I was there, actually, she had been applying to school, acupuncture school. And while I was there, she got the call that she got accepted to acupuncture school here in Austin.
Yeah, what are the chances?
And I'm like, come on, like, what the, like, obviously we need to be hanging out more. And so that brought her to Austin, and that allowed us to continue to spend more time, and we just ended up falling back in love.
Craziest story ever, because I moved here like a few months after that, and I was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? What the? And you were supposed to meet Jordan and I, because I knew you guys were back together, and we went for dinner, and you were doing something running behind. And I was like, so just so I get this right, you guys are like back. She's like, it's a whole new relationship. It's not even like we're back together. It's a whole new relationship. And, we're monogamous, we're committed. And I'm like, and I don't like to tell many, especially women, this, because, most of the time a guy doesn't do 2 years worth of work, and they shouldn't hold on to that hope. But seeing what you guys did and the life you've since built for yourself, it's like anything is possible. And to see your dynamic now, and I remember when she got pregnant, and I was like, do you think you're gonna have a girl or a boy? She's like, I know it's gonna be a boy because of Adrian's father. And I'm like, you're such a witch. She is such a witch. It's wild.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I for guys out there who are afraid of doing the work, I get it. It's hard, but so worth it. So worth it. Humanity needs men to step up and do that kind of work and step into their higher selves, so that we can protect the women we love, who are the future mothers of our children, so that our children, the little boys in us, the little boys in them, have the fathers that they never had, that have that structure and that guidance and that presence. The one of the best accomplishments that I can do for my kids is just being there.
Yeah.
Just waking up every morning and just whatever's, whether he's in a cranky mood or he's happy to see the sunrise or whatever, just to be there. It's something my dad, for whatever reason, didn't have the constitution or the courage to do. And not that he's a bad person, but he didn't do the work. He ran scared, and in many ways he was, a mask. Where he was, he collapsed. Yeah. He collapsed in the, because he just, I don't know. I actually don't know what his childhood reality is. Yeah. And actually, my heart breaks for him, because I think he missed out. I think he would have really enjoyed being in my life, and I think deep down inside, he misses. He's sad about it.
I mean, I definitely got that from watching the documentary, but he didn't have the words for it, and that was a long time ago. So it's interesting. What is it like being the father to now 2 boys? What is that like? I always feel insecure about not being able to articulate it well enough with words. I'm so in love with my boys. I'm in love with my family. I'm in love with my wife. We're getting along very well. Which is, I mean, not all the time, obviously. You're still, so you guys are pretty good. I mean,
we're solid.
Yeah,
we're super solid. But just to be able to watch my children have the freedom and the liberty to just grow without the stress of where's dad or where's mom, to we've made very intentional decisions to be close to nature and to instill certain kinds of values. No television, which by the way makes parenting a lot harder because you have to be even more present.
Yeah.
But it really does so many great things on their nervous system, and we just get to enjoy each other's company and watch them grow and learn together again, relearn. I got to teach my son how to beatbox, so that he might have dreams of beatboxing one day, and he loves it. You don't have a little partner in crime to beatbox with. But it's the most beautiful thing, and I wish children upon everybody I love. I hope people all have the ability or the chance to experience being a parent and having children. Yeah,
it's like you get to discover being a child again, or even for the first time in a lot of ways with your children, right? Like what that playfulness is like, what that wonder and discovery and awe about everything is like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to be the one who is the adult in the room. You're not the one enjoying it all the time.
You're not anymore?
No. A lot of parents, they just want to be the kid's best friend.
My father.
Yeah, and it's not always appropriate. So that's the hard part of being a parent. One day that you're rearing them, you're cultivating them so that they can go be successful, strong, independent beings out in the world without you. So you want to be careful not to create the conditions in which they need mommy or daddy all the time.
Secure children.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. To wrap all of this up, what are you working on now? What's alive for you now?
Oh, what's alive? So we are building agrihood, an agriculture neighborhood. So a residential community in a farmstead environment. So imagine the big little farm with residential homes, families, so the amenities, instead of a chlorinated pool and glyphosate manicured lawns, you get fresh, organic, regenerative food. You have vineyard, you have bread making classes and pottery and very sort of down to earth homestead amenities with nature immersion and experiences and that sort of thing. And that's what we're doing. So
you're all tying it back to the ground and that revelation you had, kind of, right? As close to the ground and being grounded as possible.
Yes. I mean, I've been reminded that we are of the earth, we come from the earth, we return to the earth. And so to have a regular, intimate relationship with nature is so powerful. Great for the nervous system. It's great for the microbiome. It's great just for the sense of spirit and connectedness. You feel a place in the world. When you feel lonely, you feel isolated, go into nature, and nature's there to hold you and bring and remind you that you're connected and you're not alone. So that's sort of what we're promoting. That's the lifestyle we're offering. As and homes and community and family.
Great. And where can we find you and more out about that?
I guess check us out on Earthspeed. Earthspeed, social channels. Earthspeed, my channel as well. But check out kintsugiranch.com. I think I'm ready to promote that a little bit.
Good. Well, we have a couple months.
First time here. Yeah, kintsugiranch.com. Kintsugi is the Japanese practice of mending broken pottery with gold.
Which your wife named.
Yes, she did. So it's a story of renewal, rebirth, reunification. And that's our mission, is to come back together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening today. You can follow us on the Next Man Up _pod on Instagram or on YouTube at Next Man Up with Coral. Please feel free to slide into my DMs with any thoughts, feelings, or praise, and let me know who you think should be the next man up.